You're pondering buying a house, you're a first-time home buyer, you don't even know what the first steps are, and you're just confused all around. This video today is to give you a basic overview of the entire process of buying a house. There's a bunch of in-depth stuff that you're not going to see, but gives you an idea of what the process looks like. So step number one is going to be choosing a real estate agent. If you're in northern Utah, or southeastern Idaho, or western Wyoming, you're going to use me, Paden Fairbanks. I'm advertising this. Yes, there's a whole bunch of interviews and stuff you should be doing with real estate agents, but use me as a real estate agent. Let's say step number one is using me as a real estate agent if you're in one of my service areas. Or contact me if you want help finding. That's grease real estate agent stuff. Let's go to step number two, which is also very important, but was actually probably more important than step number one, which is finding a good loan officer. I'm going to advise you use Emily Jensen. There's a billion good loan officers out there. Just make sure that you're using somebody that's skilled and explain stuff to you. You should talk to a lender regardless, even before you talk to a real estate agent, because they're the ones that can explain to you how much you qualify for, and if you're wanting to qualify more, how to get to that point, how to decrease your debt to income. Maybe you got to make more money. It'll give you a plan on seeing, even if you want to buy a house in a year, how to get to that point. It's hard to get to a treasure if there's no map there. So I always just advise talking to a lender, even if you're not going to buy for another year, maybe even 2 years, just to give you an idea. They are going to run your credit. Inconvenient. If your credit's been run a whole bunch, there's other conversation that needs to be had there, but it's worth talking to them. So you found a real estate agent, you're using me, you got a good lender. The next step that you're going to be doing is you're going to be looking at real estate listings. The best listing site for active listings real estate agents have posted is always going to be utahrealestate.com for your local MLS, because that's what Zillow is actually pulling all of its information from. And so if you're looking in Utah, Utah MLS is the best place for for real estate listings. But Zillow is still worth looking at, specifically because you want to see on Zillow anything that's for sale by owner, or it's also going to pull all the active listing for real estate agents as well. And the way that it's set up is really nice for being able to pull that information, send it to yourself, and communicate. The last website you should be looking at is KSL. It's for the exact same reason. A lot of elderly people or people in general have for sale by owners on KSL and nowhere else. And so it's just a great thing to be aware of. And Zillow does not pull from KSL. So there could be listings on here that are nowhere else, which is very interesting. So you found some properties on KSL or Zillow, and then you requested a showing from your real estate agent to go look at those listings. Make sure you're always contacting your real estate agent to show you listings. No reason for another agent to show it, waste their time when they're not the ones they're going to get paid off. Just the simple truth. And you say, okay, we found this property, we'd like to put an offer in. Then you submit an offer with the real estate purchase contract. Each state's going to have their specific one. Here's the Utah's version right. There's a whole bunch of stuff you should be focused on, things that are included with the property, your purchase price naturally, if you're going to have seller paid concessions, blah, 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 blah. The one thing you check every single contract, no matter how many times you've been using the real estate agent, is you want your due diligence to always be checked as is. Because if you go down here, there's going to be a due diligence deadline. And that gives you until that deadline to back out for any reason that the home doesn't suit the needs that you need it to, and be able to keep all of your earnest money is a typical way that a real estate agent would write the contract. So I just tell you every single time, write that contract with the due diligence being required and then having a date for it. The basics of these other dates, seller's disclosures is what the sellers have to tell you everything about the house. Due diligence is your inspection timeline. Financing and appraisal is being able to get the financing all in order and appraisal all in order, and settlement is when you go in and sign. And typically you close about 1 day after that, or it funds and records about 1 day. There's 16 hours worth of content I could do on the purchase contract, but those are the basics that you really should functionally understand. And so you went and looked at some homes, your real estate agent showed you a bunch of homes, you've submitted an offer, and then somebody's accepted your offer. The last piece to just understand the basics of is the costs associated with buying a home. And so if you're buying a home and you're paying for everything, this would be without concessions. I got it backwards. Just fix that. Without concessions. Your home inspection's typically going to be somewhere like $350 to $450, but I go up to $600 because you should be doing a couple extra inspections, whether it's a meth test or whether it's a sewer scope. We spent $1,200 on our inspection on our home, so just understand you can get by. I advise that you spend a little bit more. Appraisal is going to be $600. It's always $600, $575, something like that. And then your closing costs on a home. This is a little bit high. Typically, they're going to be right around $3,500 to $4,500 on a home that's between $300,000 and $450,000. Depends on the program that you're using as well, which is a huge conversation you should be having with a lender. But this is a really good generic situation that I see fairly often. So you've got about $7,200 of costs outside of your down payment, and then if you do a down payment of $14,000, your total out-of-pocket costs $21,200. This is not going to be the situation that you have, but this gives you a good idea. If you have $21,200 and you've got a decent income, you could probably buy a house. If you want to do with concessions, geez Louise, that totally backwards. So let's say if you do with concessions and you can make it so they can help pay for your appraisal and your closing costs, then you're going to have $600 of an inspection cost, and you're going to have about $14,000 of a down payment, could be more or less, but your out-of-pocket costs are going to be about $14,600. This is asking for the sellers to pay $5,000 to $10,000 of your closing costs, making it so that you don't have to come out of pocket for that. Then lastly, let's say you got 0% down and you ask for concessions. Basically, you'd have to pay for your inspection, and that would be the only thing that you'd have to come out of pocket with. Good to realize that having a seller pay for some of your closing costs is technically you getting a loan for that amount, because could you decrease the purchase price of that amount, blah, 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 blah. But it's good to be aware there's a bunch of options for how much money you have to bring down. There's a lot of implications behind this that you 100% should talk to a lender and understand what those implications are. But this gives you the basic costs and ideas of the biggest things that you're going to be dealing with when you're trying to buy a house. There you go. There's the basics of buying a house. If you got more questions, feel free to comment them down below. What caused you to want to watch this video in the first place? Comment that down below as well. Other than that, thanks for watching. Hope you're having a great day. And bye-bye now.